3 days after mowing, one patch in your lawn is already twice as tall as everything around it. The leaves are brighter, stiffer, almost yellow-green, and they rise above the turf like someone planted a different kind of grass in the middle of your yard. Your first instinct is obvious. Grab the clump and pull it out. Stop for 10 seconds, because that bright green intruder may not be grass at all. It may be nutsedge, one of the most persistent weeds found in American lawns. And if you remove only the handful of leaves, you can see the real plant may remain alive several inches underground, ready to replace them. The important word is a euro, because the internet has turned a euro unever, pull nutsedge a euro, into another oversimplified lawn commandment. Pulling a very young plant repeatedly can be part of a control strategy. Pulling one mature shoot once and walking away usually is not. The difference is hidden below your fingers. By the end of this video, you will know how to identify nutsedge without guessing, why it grows so much faster than your lawn, what those underground a euro and nutsa euro doubles actually do, when hand removal can work, when it is likely to fail, and how to choose a control method without burning the grass you wanted to protect. First, look at the color. Yellow nutsedge is commonly lighter and more yellow-green than surrounding turf. Purple nutsedge is often a deeper green, though color changes with growing conditions. Color alone is not enough, but it explains why the weed can become visible from across the yard only a few days after mowing. Next, look at how it stands. Lawn grasses tend to bend together and form a relatively even surface after mowing. Nutsedge grows upright. Its leaves are thicker and stiffer than many turf grasses, so the plant rises above the lawn instead of blending into it. Now perform the test lawn professionals remember with one short phrase. Sedges have edges. Roll the stem gently between your fingers near its base. A true sedge has a solid triangular stem. You can often feel 3 distinct sides. Its leaves emerge in groups of 3 around the base. Most grasses have rounder or flatter stems and leaves arranged in sets of 2. Do not perform this test with a mower blade or judge a shredded leaf from across the lawn. Select one intact plant, trace it down to the base, and feel the stem. That small identification step matters because crabgrass, quackgrass, tall fescue clumps, killinga, and several other weeds can look similar from a distance, yet require different control. Now we reach the part hidden beneath the lawn. Nutsedge is a perennial sedge, not an annual grass that disappears forever after one season. It spreads through underground stems called rhizomes. Along those underground structures, it produces tubers, commonly called nutlets. Those tubers store energy and contain buds capable of producing new shoots. Yellow nutsedge generally produces a single tuber at the end of a rhizome. Purple nutsedge can form chains containing several tubers. Depending on the species and soil, those structures can extend far deeper than the shallow handful of earth that comes loose when you casually pull the leaves. That is why a pulled shoot can create a false victory. The lawn looks clean today, but the energy reserve remains underground. A surviving bud activates, a new shoot rises, and within days the bright green flag is back. It does not mean that touching the plant magically multiplies every tuber. It means incomplete removal fails to remove the part that makes the weed persistent. Chopping, tilling, or moving contaminated soil can spread tubers into new areas. A single casual pull is different from a disciplined program that removes young growth again and again. Timing changes everything. A young nutsedge plant with fewer than roughly 5 or 6 leaves may not yet have produced a new generation of tubers. If you remove that young plant and continue removing every new shoot before it reaches that stage, the original underground tuber must repeatedly spend stored energy to rebuild leaves. The first new shoot consumes a large portion of that reserve. The next consumes more. Continue interrupting the plant before it can recharge and produce new tubers, and the underground system can eventually be exhausted. But Euro's doing important work in that sentence. One pulling session is not a control program. Mature tubers can resprout several times. During summer, you may need to remove new growth every 2 or 3 weeks and continue monitoring through the growing season. Miss the returning shoots, allow them to develop, and the system begins storing energy again. For 1 or 2 young plants, patient hand removal can make sense. Loosen the soil and remove as much of the basal bulb, rhizome, and tuber system as possible. Do not simply snap off the leaves at ground level. In a small, isolated turf patch, digging out the soil to substantial depth may be more reliable, followed by clean soil and new seed or sod. For a mature infestation spread across a lawn, digging every tuber may be unrealistic. The underground structures can extend 8 inches or more, and missing only a portion allows regrowth. This is where homeowners often turn one afternoon of pulling into an entire summer of frustration. Before buying anything, ask why nutsedge appeared there. This weed thrives in wet, poorly drained soil. A dense patch can reveal a low spot, compacted ground, a leaking sprinkler head, an irrigation zone running too long, or a downspout keeping one section saturated. Nutsedge can survive drier conditions once established, so correcting water alone will not instantly erase a mature patch. But ignoring the moisture problem makes long-term control harder and invites the weed to return. Run each irrigation zone and watch it instead of trusting the timer. Look for broken heads, uneven spray, runoff, and water collecting along sidewalks or slopes. Push a screwdriver into several areas. If it enters the nutsedge patch easily but struggles in the surrounding lawn, that area may be remaining wetter or softer. Also, inspect drainage. A compacted clay low spot behaves differently from sandy soil. Correcting grade, redirecting runoff, repairing irrigation, or addressing compaction can reduce the environment nutsedge prefers. Do not promise yourself that a bottle will permanently solve a landscape problem created by water. Now, suppose you have identified nutsedge correctly, repaired the leak, and the patch is too established to dig. This is where selectivity becomes critical. A product that kills green plants is not automatically safe for a lawn. Non-selective herbicides can injure or kill desirable turf. Household mixtures made with salt, strong vinegar, bleach, or concentrated cleaners do not somehow recognize the difference between a weed and grass. They can burn foliage, damage soil, harm nearby plants, and create risks on a lawn used by children or pets. Nutsedge control normally requires a product specifically labeled for nutsedge and specifically compatible with your turf species. Common selective active ingredients used in some lawn products include halosulfuron and sulfentrazone. Other active ingredients exist, but availability and legal uses vary by location, and not every product is safe on every grass. This is why the front label is not enough. Turn the container around and read the complete label. Confirm that nutsedge is listed. Confirm that your particular turfgrass is listed as tolerant. Check application temperature, mowing interval, watering directions, required protective equipment, re-entry instructions, and whether a surfactant is required or already included. Bermuda grass, zoysia, centipede grass, street Augustan grass, Kentucky bluegrass, and tall fescue are not interchangeable surfaces. A treatment tolerated by one can severely injure another. Newly seeded, newly sodded, drought-stressed, heat-stressed, or dormant grass may carry additional restrictions. If you cannot confidently identify your turf and the weed, pause. Take clear photographs of the entire patch, leaf arrangement, stem base, and flower head if present. Contact your local cooperative extension office or a licensed lawn professional. Accurate identification costs less than repairing a damaged yard. Application timing matters almost as much as the product. Many selective post-emergent controls work best on young, actively growing nutsedge before the plant has produced 5 or 6 leaves, and while energy is moving toward new tubers. Treating an old plant after mowing it repeatedly may kill or discolor the visible leaves without affecting every underground tuber. Do not mow immediately before an application unless the label directs it. The product needs enough healthy leaf surface for absorption. Do not apply to a wilted lawn during extreme heat simply because you are impatient. And do not assume that extra concentrate produces extra control. More than the labeled rate can mean turf injury, wasted money, and illegal use. Measure the treatment area. Measure the product. Calibrate the sprayer. Apply only where needed. A small nutsedge patch does not require bathing the entire yard. Protect pavement, ornamentals, vegetable beds, and water. Some iron-containing or other lawn products can stain concrete, while non-selective drift can damage anything green it touches. Then wait according to the label. Nutsedge may not collapse overnight. Some effective treatments stop growth gradually rather than producing the instant brown scorch people expect. Spraying again after 2 days because the weed still looks green can injure the lawn without improving control. Evaluate at the labeled interval and repeat only if permitted and necessary. Even successful treatment may require follow-up. Dormant tubers can survive in soil, and new shoots may emerge later. The realistic objective is to reduce the underground population season by season while preventing new tubers from forming euro, not to declare a permanent victory 24 hours after one spray. This also explains why ordinary pre-emergent programs for crabgrass often disappoint against nutsedge. Crabgrass commonly begins from seed. Nutsedge frequently returns from living tubers already underground. A barrier designed to stop germinating annual weed seeds may do little against a shoot rising from stored energy below it. The hardest infestations are often imported accidentally. Tubers can arrive in contaminated topsoil, fill dirt, nursery material, or equipment carrying soil from another area. Inspect new soil sources when possible, clean digging tools, and avoid moving soil from an infested bed into clean parts of the yard. Now build a plan based on the size of the problem. If you find one young plant with only a few leaves, loosen the area, remove the entire structure you can reach, mark the location, and inspect it every week. Remove each returning shoot before it matures. Correct any nearby leak or saturated soil. If you have a small established patch, decide whether digging and replacing that section of turf is practical. Remove soil deeply enough to capture the underground structures rather than shaving off the top. Dispose of tubers so they are not returned through unfinished compost or redistributed around the property. If nutsedge is scattered throughout the lawn, identify the species in turf, correct irrigation, and select a labeled control. Treat young active growth at the correct timing. Protect desirable plants and plan for monitoring rather than a one-day cure. If the infestation is in a vegetable or flower bed, do not assume a turf-safe product is safe around edible crops or ornamentals. The site listed on the label matters. Hand removal, careful digging, shading, appropriate landscape fabric, or a product specifically labeled for that bed may be required. And if you are looking at a huge patch that returns despite repeated correct treatment, bring in local expertise. Purple nutsedge can be especially persistent, and regional recommendations differ because climate, soil, turf species, and registered products differ. There is one more reason to identify the weed instead of attacking it blindly. The bright plant may be telling you something about the lawn itself. Nutsedge in a recurring wet stripe can expose a buried drainage problem. Growth around one sprinkler can reveal a leak. A patch beside a downspout can show where roof water is concentrating. Killing the leaves without reading that pattern removes the alarm while leaving the cause. So return to the thumbnail moment. Your hand is around the leaves. What should you do? Do not yank once and assume the lawn is cured. Count the leaves. Feel the triangular stem. Look for the 3-ranked leaf arrangement. Check the moisture pattern. Decide whether this is one young plant you can repeatedly exhaust, a small patch you can dig completely, or a mature infestation that needs a turf-compatible labeled treatment. Pulling is not forbidden. Incomplete, one-time pulling is the trap. The visible leaves are only the solar panels. The real battery is underground. Every time the plant rebuilds leaves, it spends some of that stored energy. Remove young growth consistently, or move the correct treatment through those leaves while the plant is actively feeding its tubers, and you attack the system instead of temporarily hiding it. Identify it. Now find out why that soil stays wet. Choose the strategy that fits the size and age of the infestation. Follow the label exactly if you use a herbicide. Then return and inspect the spot because nutsedge is defeated through timing and persistence, say euro, not one dramatic pull. What looked like a few bright leaves was an underground survival network. Now that you know where the real weed lives, you can stop fighting the part above the lawn and begin controlling the part that keeps bringing it back.